As I'm sure many of you guys are already aware, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has become a very money-driven card game as of recently. If you want to play competitive, you gotta dish out the cash for extravagance for your control decks, or lightning storms to be able to break boards evenly matched to clear boss monsters and entire impressive stun boards. But I'm just here to let you guys know that you don't have to worry about that because there are budget alternatives to some of your favorite decks. Some of you guys just aren't able to pick up that Halka Fabrics or that Coral Anemone because prices have started to trend upwards. Certain main deck cards like Abyss Spheres and Abyss Lens have also started to go up in value because of their limited printing, same with the Mermail, Abyss, Gaius. Now these are just a couple of cards. Of course there's other larger cards like, Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, as well as the Blacklist of Soldiers, Closure of Chaos, that will dictate what decks you want to build to compete with. But for a casual setting, budget is your best friend. And so here we have a $80 Mermail deck profile that covers both the main deck as well as the extra deck that won't break the bank. Now, if you want to spend a few extra dollars, you can pick up a side deck. Well, oh, hey, what do you know? One of the few deck profiles that actually has a side deck. So yeah, right before I get into this, I do want to say that every once in a while on my community tabs, I post a meme or a video that has some humor in it. And just recently I asked somebody to say, make a funny caption. Whoever has the most liked caption will get featured in today's video. So this is the lucky person for today's video. I don't forget about these things. I just sometimes, basically what I'm trying to get at is that I put a lot of stuff in front of me to work towards, and sometimes it's a bit too much. But I have all the prices here, and I will talk about some of my budget explanations and why I chose those options. So for the main deck, I'm sure you already know, we are going to be playing 3 Megalo. Of course, if you're playing a more optimized Mermail build with a higher budget, you're going to want to be playing one of this card because you only use him to sometimes use his attack and OTK potential, because in those builds, you don't really end on a Mermail monster to equip an Abyss scale to. But in this build, he is kind of your main boss monster. He's a bit outdated for this format, of course. The dinosaur boss monster easily outshines him in almost every single category. But for our deck, he's really special, being able to just search a bunch of Abyss spell and traps so you can equip to your Abyss Alatia. For the associating level 7 Mermail, we have Mermail Abyss Teus, of course. I try to get these as lowest rarity as possible, but even I sometimes don't have access to some of those cards. But Teus searches for your smaller Mermails, which is very important for this build. I'll tell you what the main objective with this build is. We're trying to end on Abyss Alatia plus True King of all Calamities. Abyss Alatia will have an Abyss skill or 2 equipped, and that leads you to some negations and protection. For the smaller Mermails, 2 Mermail Abyss Gun. The reason why we don't play 2, the reason why we don't play 1 and we play 2 is so that we can try and discard them off of Megalo and Teus, so that we can use Teus to search for Abyss Mander instead. Or, in that case, in that specific scenario, we're able to capitalize off of reviving a Mermail and using Mander to turn those both into level 9 monsters. And so, of course, here is the last Mermail in our deck. It is the Mermail Abyss Mander. Recently, this card has actually gone up in price, although in the more competitive oriented and the higher budget builds, we don't actually play Mander because we actually use our extra deck Fusion Trishula to be able to go into our rank 9 Calamities. But for this budget build, this is what a lot of players are attempting or opting to use because it doesn't take up 3 spots in your extra deck to make Calamities. So I'll have the price tally in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, and it'll keep on adding up as we move along. Now, if you aren't already aware, this entire Mermail package is less than, I believe it's less than $10. So that's pretty good on you. The Atlantean part actually takes up the largest portion of your budget. To start that off, we have 3 Deep Sea Diva. I don't actually have 3 commons. I actually have 3 rares and a common. But for this case, we have mismatched rarities. Now, the cheapest printing of this card is actually $2.50. And of course, this is your most important card in the deck. He basically makes Halka Fabrics, but this is a budget build. We don't have Halka Fabrics to work with. So instead, this card helps get your engine running to go into Abyss Alatia with an infantry as a form of disruption and protection because Abyss Alatia floats. For the last Deep Sea cards we play, 3 Minstrel. We play 3 of this because we use this as a combo card. This card by itself with Dragoons is a combo. Of course, because you can discard Dragoons for cost, take Nibiru out of your opponent's hand. We can work through a hand trap, especially since we're not playing Halka Fabrics. But you basically take a hand trap, get some knowledge, and then you can probably proceed with like, oh, do we want to hand loop the opponent, or do we want to end on some negates? So this card's really good for starting your combos with Dragoons to get access to Diva and ensure she does not get hand trapped. For recovery plays, we have Deep Sea Artisan. This is another excellent target for Deep Sea Diva to special summon in case you don't want to go for Neptibus. That's because Artisan special summons a level 4 lower water monster from your graveyard, and if you pair this with, say, Diva Donna or any other monster that revives it, even with 1-for-1, you were able to just extend so much farther and make a lot of level 9 synchro monsters and get a bunch of draws off of Krakosaur. For the Atlantean part of our deck, 3 Prince, this card is the cheapest of all your Atlantean monsters that you play, which is kind of ironic considering he's the best Atlantean monster. He's also part of your combo starters. I'm not going to go too far into that. Next we have 3 Atlantean Dragoons. A lot of these cards are in desperate needs of reprints, hence why their price tag's kind of high. And that's also kind of why they eat up most of your budget rather than, you know, your extra deck cards, which are non-archetype specific. Like Princes are $2.50, Dragoons are $10 a piece. A whopping $10 a piece. So that's like, what, $30 or 24 bucks of your budget is just in these 3 super rare Dragoons. 2 common infantries. These are supers because I don't actually own any commons. Funny enough, I chose to buy supers because the price are so similar, but it's also going to set you back a couple of dollars per one. Now, most modern builds don't actually play Marksman, but for this build, we are playing a bit of a more stall type build because Abyssalacia is our main boss monster. Marksman lets us poke through and deal some damage to special summon any Atlantean from our deck and poke for more damage. So he also really helps with your OTK potential, and every once in a while you will use him to destroy a set card, or at least proc it so your opponent has to respond to it or it gets sent to the grave. Of course, unofficial Atlanteans is Lapis Dragon plus Moon Glacier. Both these cards are less important now that we don't have Halka Fabrics. In this particular build, we don't play it because sometimes his price tag is a bit too high for some of our lower budget players. Lapis Dragon can actually be cut completely, but we actually use him to go for our synchro plays by searching stuff off of Dragoons. Because, you know, Deep Sea Diva and Neptibus can actually still use, you know, for synchro plays and doesn't have to always go into Halka Fabrics. Blown Glacier is a really good card, of course, if you're not playing against Eldritch. But even then, if you snipe out the Eldritches as monsters and not their spawn trap cards, you're going to stop their plays moving forward. For the extenders, this is the only non-searchable tuner target we play, and that's Fishborg Launcher. This is because this card has insane recursion ability once per turn, and because all of your monsters in your main deck are water monsters, it's constantly free link material as well as synchro material as well. Say level 1 monster means it's special summonable off of 1-for-1, and it pairs really nicely with all of your big Mermail sharks because they're all level 7s. You're able to go into a plethora of level 8 water synchro monsters. So this card is actually a really good extender, and because you play Warrior of Greed in this deck, you actually see this card a lot more often than you would think, even without Halka Fabrics to tutor him out whenever you want. For the last water extender we play, it's a Barrier Statue of the Torrent. You essentially use this card as part of your pseudo lock with Diva Donna. It also prevents you from being Nibiru'd because Nibiru is not a water type monster, and you're super easy to summon this off of just by using Minstrel and some way to get to a level 7 synchro monster. Hand traps, 2 Gamma Seal, you could play 3, you could play less. However, we are trying to maximize the consistency of our deck to get into Abyssalacia, and going first, non-waters will hinder that strategy, and so we try to keep this as consistent as possible. I mean, you could argue that certain bricks are just inevitable, but having waters, I consider them non-bricks because they have so much synergy with the rest of your cards, because Megalo can discard any water, and having multiple Megalos means you don't have to search Megalo mid-combo for this type of build, and instead search for infantry to use that as your power play with your Abyssalacia. Moving on to spell cards, 3 Warrior of Greed. This card is Ash Bait for like 50 cents, and it's not cost to shuffle stuff back, so you can basically activate Warrior of Greed going first, shuffle back a Gamma Seal, as well as a Marksman or something, put those back in, hopefully draw into a Diva, a Minstrel, Dragoons or Minstrel, etc. It's a really good card to play in every single build. Of course, some builds play so many non-waters that it's not that great, but like I said, a lot of the water cards are build dependent, and this card is definitely too good to pass up. Also, unofficial second highest rarity is your Speed Duel Commons because it has that Speed Duel watermark, as well as with this area where the dual terminal or limited edition mark would be. Put those to the side, and let's take a look at Pot of Avarice for other draw cards. Now, Pot of Avarice doesn't actually do a lot of things turn 1. unless of course you dump stuff and fill your grave up with cards. But of course, Pot of Avarice in this type of build where you play multiple Basilacias, you want to constantly recycle your stuff and hopefully grind up your opponent just a little bit. You know, this deck isn't a one-trick pony where you exhaust all of your resources first turn and then lose. No, we're sitting on True King of all Claims, we're sitting on a Basilacia, we're sitting on cards that will stun and stop your opponent. So Avarice is a pretty good card to play, and it's fairly cheap. For the one-ofs, one for one Mizuchi, one Kraken. I opted not to play the third one. I actually forgot its name. Oh, this Kraken, Mizuchi, and Cetus. So Cetus stops trap cards, but we don't have to worry about evenly matched or impermanence, because impermanence is going to be dropped before you even get a chance to equip it to a Mermail monster. But these cards can stop all monsters and spell cards once per turn. So for example, you do a bunch of your plays. The most optimal build, of course, is dropping your True King of all Calamities with your Basilacia for this budget style build. Equip both of these to your Basilacia, and it stops them from hurting you with a Lightning Storm or some other spell removal to stop your calamities, such as Forbidden Chalice. So these cards are pretty good. Of course, they can be considered bricks in a budget build. These are some of your best options as main deck negation. Moving on to the extra deck, I actually had a lot of fun piecing this together, and if my prices are correct, the extra deck totals to a whopping $18.60, give or take a few dollars. For synchros, we play 6 total of them, and 1/3 of our synchros are Ice Barrier synchro monsters. So going in order, I think most of them are self-explanatory. Brionic is there for spot removal, it's part of your combo. Viva Donna is there to help go into Trishula, as well as Krakasaur, unless you want to go for Barrier Statue of the Torn. Orwell is actually a couple dollars, surprisingly, and he's there for your OTK stuff. He also has a lot of trouble. Your opponent sometimes has to go through banishing removal to get rid of him, because he always comes back. Dragite is our Mermail synchro boss monster. It's a spell and trap negate, so it's really good going first. Trishula is there for the hand loop stuff, because if you drop Molan Glacia, you kind of want to drop Trishula to banish all of their graveyard stuff that get effects during the end phase. Crocodile is the most expensive card in the extra deck, coming in at $8.50. He's there for your draw 2 stuff and to help make calamities. The one Exceeded monster we play is True King of all Calamities. We usually drop these in defense. Now, the reason why I don't play any other Exceed monsters is because it's kind of difficult to make rank 4s in this deck without Bajinki Ahashima, as well as Aqua Spirits. And so, Emerald Biscayos is sitting at a whopping $20, and it's unreasonable to fit that card into a budget Mermail build, because it's honestly not budget. But this is a 80-cent option to have some game-winning effects against your opponent's decks. For the Link monsters, Link 1, this is your Link Kuriboh. He's part of a really cool combo. I kind of want to show you maybe a future video. I don't want the deck profile to drag on way too long. Link Kuriboh is a great option to help get rid of your Neptibus, as well as alter your water count in your graveyard. For the water, Link 2s, we have a Star Boy +2 Abyssalacia. I'd honestly think about putting in an area the Water Charmer, but due to space reasons and also, you know, what do I want to do with this deck and how I want to build it, these are the best water options. Of course, Anemone is too expensive to fit into a budget build, but these cards honestly get the job done because they boost your monster's attacks, as well as floating into additional monsters. We have Cerberus as our other cheap spot removal card. Of course, you can play other options, but this is the cheapest of the bunch. For a really cool combo, we have our only proxy in the deck, because I actually don't have one. I kind of recommend you guys pick it up before it gets too expensive. This is Curious the Lightsworn Dominion. It requires 3 monsters with the same attribute but different types to summon it, and you can actually drop a Floodgate off of her effect, and then make Crystron Griffin or Nightmare Griffin and revive that Floodgate. So you basically search your anti-spell fragrances, search any of your trap cards that are complete blowout cards. Plus, this entire engine is less than $3. Our final monster is Borreload Dragon. This card is only a couple of dollars, and he can actually really have an impact on some certain matchups. It's a really good card to own for any budget build. And that rounds up our $80 Mermail deck, extra and main. But if you want to take a look at the side deck for just a couple of dollars added to your overall price, we can play 3 Solemn Judgments. These are only $1 and a couple of cents a piece, and these help with going first to stop your opponent's cards. To accompany that, we have a red reboot. This is one of our only going second cards, and this is an absolute blowout against certain control decks. 3 different dimension grounds. This is a great card to play against Salamangreats and other control decks that we struggle against. Banishing all their monsters for their turn really stops their plays, and it absolutely ruins a lot of decks' days. 2 anti-spell fragrances and Imperial Order for our spell hate. This is actually a really strong trio of cards to play, especially when accompanied with Curious as well as Nightmare Griffin. For spell and trap removal, we have 3 Cosmic Cyclones. Banishing spell and traps is a great thing in this format. And to help protect against Abyss Dweller, we have a couple of Forbidden Chalices. This is our budget alternative to Infinite Impermanence, and honestly, I would play all 6, 3 Impermanence and 3 Forbidden Chalices if I had the budget. So I actually have the download for the YDK file linked in the description if you want to take this deck and note it down to pick up some of your cards. And if you do think about picking up some of these cards, why not use my TCG Player affiliate link when you make your purchases? So basically, just by using my link, I can get a little bit of kickback from your orders, and I can put together some more decks for other archetypes to show you guys on this channel, and hopefully inspire you guys to pick up some other cool decks.